The problem did not start in 1974 at St. Anne High School. The problem did not start in 1955 with the murder of Emmett Till. The problem did not start even in 1619 with the start of slavery in America. See, we can trace this issue all the way back to the beginning of time.
I have a dream.
I find that I have two personas that are in conflict within me. One persona is Pastor Perry. Pastor Perry is hopeful. He loves Jesus and he believes in the power of the gospel that can change people's lives. Pastor Perry has preached this gospel for 43 years. He believes in it with every ounce of his being. But there's a second persona. His name is Leon. Leon is saddened by the regression of race relations in this country. Leon is irritated by the efforts to mute his voice and the voices that tell him to stop talking about the past, to get over it, and just stop making excuses. Leon is frustrated by having to have the same conversations over and over. Leon is angry about the dismantling, the rewriting, and the whitewashing of American history that removes its history because it makes other people uncomfortable. I'm gonna tell you something. This has been a challenging, difficult message for me to write. But for several weeks, I have been pondering and praying about what I am supposed to say to you in a 15 to 20-minute speech that can adequately address an issue that has plagued mankind since the beginning of time. But as a 65-year-old man, and I think about the students that I work with at the high school, Dr. King, he's a lesson in a book. And in some cases, he's not even a lesson in a book. He's not even a memory. But as I think about this idea of trying to address an issue that we have dealt with since mankind, how do we work together to build a strong and a fair society? If there were a silver bullet, a simple answer that would miraculously and comprehensively address all of the issues and solve all of the problems, we still wouldn't be asking this question. I would not still be asking this question 333 years after Columbus discovered America. I would not still be asking this question 175 years after the Trail of Tears, 160 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, 89 years after the Mexican repatriation program, 62 years after the I Have a Dream speech, 42 years after me entering high school to newspaper headlines saying, "We don't want the blacks here." See, the answer to this question lies not in flowery speeches, not in political revolutions, not in legislative actions. We've had an abundance of all of those things over the years, but with limited and often short-lasting impact. The answer is found in a radical examination, deconstruction, and reconstruction of the human heart. I believe in the 1930s, a man came here named Gunnar Myrdal to study the race problem in America. And he came working on his doctoral thesis, and he said that this is a sociological problem in the United States. And after being here for a while and doing his studying and everything else, he came to this conclusion, and he wrote a book on the basis of his study. And he says, we have a moral dilemma. This is a moral dilemma. This is not a political problem. This is not a financial problem. This is a moral problem that we are facing. And so for us to think that we will solve it by electing or failing to elect a particular person, we're in trouble. If we think we will solve it by recreating Black Wall Street, we're in trouble. If we think we will solve it by integration, we are in trouble. There is a workshop that I have been doing for the last 10 years called D minus R equals AA. It stands for diversity which is a change in demographics, apart from reconciliation, which is a change in hearts, is nothing more than affirmative action. An imperfect human effort to solve a human problem. And so often what we try to do and what we have tried to do over these years within America is that we have tried everything other than this moral issues dealing with the condition of the human heart. You can make a legislative action that says, I can sit at the lunch counter. You cannot stop somebody from spitting in my lunch. We can make legislative actions and call for political revolutions that tell us that you can live next door, you can live anywhere you want, but it cannot stop people from moving away when you move in. You see, this is a moral issue. And the answer is found in a radical examination, a deconstruction and a reconstruction of the human heart. The problem did not start in 1974 at St. Anne High School. The problem did not start in 1955 with the murder of Emmett Till. The problem did not start even in 1619 with the start of slavery in America. See, we can trace this issue all the way back to the beginning of time. We can go all the way back to the beginning of time when Cain and Abel were faced with the exact same question: how do we live together and work together in what I feel is an unfair society? So at the time that God addressed this issue with Cain, because Cain was feeling that, and God addressed the issue with Cain, he asked him some very direct questions. And by asking and honestly answering those same questions ourselves, we start to move towards a solution. I say that because when God asks questions, he does not ask questions in order to get information for himself. God asks questions in order to create revelation within ourselves. God asks us questions in order for us to look into ourselves and to say, I need you to think about, Adam, why ain't you in your place? Moses, what's in your hand? Elijah, what are you doing here? The question was not for God to play some kind of game of divine hide and seek. God is saying, I need you to go hide, look at what you are hiding and seek truth in what's inside of you. God says, I need you to think about yourself. I need you to turn the mirror on yourself and to begin to answer some questions. God says, so there's 3 questions. And as I looked at that scripture, I said, I was fascinated by the questions that God asked Cain. And I think it's the same questions that we need to be asking each other in this very turbulent, unsettling time in which we live. Question number 1, why are you angry? He said, why are you angry? Here's the question. What has happened in your life and in your world that has created in you your current emotional state? I find that I have 2 personas that are in conflict within me. I'm not bipolar. I'm not schizophrenic, but I still have 2 personas that are in conflict in me. One persona is Pastor Perry. Pastor Perry is hopeful. He loves Jesus and he believes in the power of the gospel that can change people's lives. Pastor Perry has preached this gospel for 43 years. He believes in it with every ounce of his being. Pastor Perry knows that adherence to those principles can create this fair and equitable society of which we constantly speak and long to see. But there's a second persona. His name is Leon. Leon is saddened by the regression of race relations in this country. Leon is irritated by the efforts to mute his voice and the voices that tell him to stop talking about the past, to get over it, and just stop making excuses. Leon is frustrated by having to have the same conversations over and over and over and over again. Leon is angry. Leon is angry about the dismantling, the rewriting, and the whitewashing of American history that removes its history because it makes other people uncomfortable. I saw a picture the other day. Leon saw a picture the other day, not Pastor Perry. Leon saw a picture the other day. And it was piles and piles and piles of books in Florida that were being thrown out because they were written by Black authors, or they talked about DEI, or they talked about any kind of Black history, and they were being thrown out. And I took the picture, I saw the picture, and I sent it to a friend in Florida, and I said, will you please tell me this is a joke? Leon is angry about that. Leon is angry that we're still asking questions about a dream of an open and fair and equitable society that is still a nightmare for far too many. See, if this dream that we keep talking about is going to materialize into a daytime reality, we must be able to acknowledge the reality of our emotions and have some courageous conversations about those emotions. We can't keep telling people, be quiet, shut up and dribble. If those who are, listen to me clearly on this, if those who are experiencing pain do not have a reasonable pathway of expression for their pain, then that pain turns into a dangerous passion, because racism radicalizes wounded people. Did y'all hear what I said? Racism radicalizes wounded people. The reason that we have ISIS is because of racism. Because racism, when people are not heard, when people are not given the opportunity to express that which is inside of them in a reasonable way, when their voices are not heard, they become vulnerable to radical voices. Racism radicalizes wounded people. Let me say something else. This is not in my notes, but it's in my heart. This will sound strange to some of you, and some of you may question my faith. Get over it. I can understand why my Native American brothers and sisters, I can understand why my Black nationalist brothers would want nothing to do with Christianity. I tell people often, if I look at my history, and I allowed my history and my experiences, I'm going to talk about this in a second a little bit more, but if I allowed those things to shape my worldview, I would not be a Christian and I would hate white people. That's the reality, y'all. Now, that might make you uncomfortable, but that's my story. So I understand that. And if we don't give people a clear and a reasonable pathway to express their pain, to express their story, it manifests itself in radicalism. And that's dangerous. There's a second question. The first question was, why are you angry? The second question was, where is your brother? Where is Abel? And so the question here is, how does your emotional state shape your relationships? How is your internal pain reflected in your external relationships, attitudes, and actions? Have you allowed the collective trauma of your people, your tribe, your past, your experiences, your politics, your ideologies to cause you to lose sight of the beloved community that Dr. King talked about and narrow our definition of equity and fairness from justice to just us? Have you become so calloused in your conscience, so perverted in your perspectives, so disfigured in your decision making that you have lost sight of your responsibility to be your brother's keeper? Have you turned your brother into an other? Because we have lost sight of community. Because we've allowed our pain, our past, our politics, our perspectives and our people to guide our thinking, and we have lost sight of the kingdom that is able to draw us together in spite of that which tears us apart. If becoming a strong and a fair society is to be mission possible, then we have to stop drinking deeply from the equally poisoned wells of self-hatred and self-delusion. We need to seek to become a whole and a healed society. See, we can no longer allow that which describes us to continue to define us. Instead of being satisfied with building comfortable couches in the man caves and the she sheds of our dysfunction, we must tirelessly build ladders for ourselves and for others to ascend to places of emotional and physical and spiritual and financial and relational health. Let me say that again, just in case y'all missed it. Instead of being satisfied of building comfortable couches in the man caves and she sheds of our dysfunction, we must tirelessly build ladders for ourselves and for others to ascend to places of emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, and relational health. Cain's response, I my brother's keeper, to God's question, where is your brother, revealed Cain's stinking thinking and his rejection of the reality of the beloved community. And that leads us to our third and final question. Question 3, what have you done? What have you done? See, this question challenges us to take a hard look and to make an honest evaluation at our role in creating the beloved community. We must ask ourselves not only, what have I done to hurt others, but also, what have you done to help others? Dr. King said, he who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetuate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. Even if your actions and decisions are not directly responsible for your brother's condition, you have a responsibility to consider what you must do to care for them in that current position. Several years ago, I was teaching in South Africa. I was teaching in Johannesburg, and I was at a school in Johannesburg that it was a white school. For the most part, the schools in South Africa are either black or white. But this particular school had integrated a little bit, and they had allowed some students to come in. And I'm in this class, and there were about 5 black students in this school at this class, and the rest are white students. And I made a comment. I won't go into the details of the comment, but I made a comment that one of the white students in the class took offense to. And I was talking about history and humanity. And he got upset with me, and he started yelling, and he said, that's what they say, that's what they say. And he pointed to the black students who were all sitting together in the room. And after a while, the boy withdrew from me. He was sitting next to me, and then he moved to the row behind me. Then he moved to the corner. And by the end of the class, he was laying on the floor in a fetal position. After class, I went up to him and I stopped him and I told his friends, I said, I need y'all to come talk to me. I said, why did you react that way to what I said? And he said to me, that's what they say. I said, tell me what they say. He said, they keep saying, we did this. It's our fault that we're in this position. And they keep saying that we are going to do it again. We didn't do anything. We didn't do apartheid. We didn't do those things. Why are they blaming us? It's not fair. And I said, where do they live? And he said, they live in the slum. And understand, slum in South Africa is different than slum in America. The slums there don't have toilets in the house. The slums there, they have what they call flying toilets as you do your business in a bag and throw it somewhere. The slums there have the waste running through ditches open in the streets. The slums there don't have electricity. The slums there have people living in houses that when a fire starts, 300 people die. They said they live in the slums. I said, tell me how their lives are fundamentally different now after apartheid has ended than it was before, other than they get the privilege of coming and sitting in class with you, pointing fingers at them. And they dropped their heads and they said, I guess it's not that much different. See, even if your actions and your decisions are not directly responsible for your brother's condition, you have a responsibility to consider what you must do to care for them in their present position. We have to have the courage to stop hiding behind the cowardly narratives that protect our emotions, our positions, and our power, but reject our responsibility to compassionately care for our brothers and our sisters. Dr. King said the life's most persistent and urgent question is this: what are you doing for others? He also said everybody can be great because everybody can serve. See, we must change our dismissive question, am I my brother's keeper, into a definitive statement: I am my brother's keeper. As the pastor of a multicultural church, I live in this complex world every single day. I am constantly faced with the challenge of building a beloved community that is populated both by those who embrace the message of MAGA and the sentiments of Malcolm X, by Black Panthers and Christian nationalists. I live in the battleground between the justified reality of being Leon and the spiritual hope of being Pastor Perry. How do we work together to build a fair, strong and fair society? We must learn to live diversely, not just divergently. We must not settle for the false harmony of a smoothie, but we must embrace the challenging diversity of being a chef's salad. See, smoothies are tasty, convenient, and inclusive, but they come with a steep price tag. The desire for attention-free community, one in which we seek to ignore the reality of friction, caused by differing worldviews and different cultural expressions of worship, can lead us to squelch the variant vocalizations of our lives. It is this combined experience, but it is the combined experience of the variety of textures, appearances, taste, sounds, and smells that is the beauty of the chef's salad. The croutons may hurt your sensitive teeth, and the onions may assault your nostrils, and they make you cry. But they add to the flavor of the text of the salad. So we have to learn how to live in the tension. We have to learn to live intentionally. We have to learn to live in the tension between our history and our hopes, between what we have been taught and what the Word of God tells us, between our experiences and our belief in what God desires, between our comfort zone and our growth edges, between what we want to do and what we need to do, between our personal preferences and God's preferred future. I can tell y'all I'm working hard to deal with my stuff. What about you? Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your attention.